Hi there, this is Suzanne Wagner, and I'm giving you the intuitive patterns for the month of August 2018. So once again, running a little late, sorry about that. I've been traveling, working, and having house guests, and while it was wonderful, I'm just a smidge late putting this out. You can always read my articles on my blogs at suzannewagner.com or on blogger.com under Suzanne Wagner. And they're also on Facebook, so if you're on my Facebook fan page, you will also see them, and they're usually up a couple weeks in advance. Okay, so let's just talk for a second about the astrology, and I'm going to go more into depth with the astrology this weekend because I'll have a chance to kind of really organize it, but let's do it off the top of my head. So we're dealing with the fact that starting in July, we had 3 eclipses. So we had a solar eclipse on the 12th, 13th of July. Then we had a lunar eclipse on the 27th of July. And then we're having a solar eclipse on August 11th, which is coming up in a couple of days. And we don't normally have 3 in a row, just as the FYI. So if you're feeling in August like the intensity is really starting to get to you, it's because of some of the astrology. So when an eclipse is in Cancer, which with the first one on July 12th, 13th was, Cancer is about home and hearth and family and babies and stability. Cancer wants safety. Cancer wants to ask what is safety, what is home. And so when the eclipse happens there, you're starting to say, hey, I want to do some things with my home. I want to feel at home. I want to feel at peace. I want to feel safe. And so you're going to be doing things that are going to make those adjustments so that you can feel more safe at your home. For myself personally, one of the challenges was just simply noticing who do I want in my home and who do I not want in my home, and start to recognize where there are moments I'm overriding myself and moments that I want to invite people in more. The second one was a lunar eclipse in Aquarius. Sorry, we have a lot of smoke here because of the fires, which are not near me, but the way the wind is blowing in Northern California, we're still getting a little bit of smoke, so sorry for the craggy voice. So the one that happened on July 27th was in Aquarius. Aquarius is a freedom fighter. Aquarius is a rebel. Aquarius is a sign that, really wants to create change. It also likes to have a little bit of a detached quality to it. And so this lunar eclipse that was in Aquarius made you start to ask the question, like, what do I want to rebel against? What do I want to stand up for? What am I, resisting? What am I detached from? What have I stepped back from? Then the solar eclipse that's coming up in a couple of days is in Leo. Leo is about power, and so the question would be, what do I want with my power? Is my power moving in a way that I want it to move and flow or not? So what's interesting is that as I was going over those, I'm always one of these people that I watch for the nature signs. So just so you know, a hawk just tried to attack a bird, just came swooping through and tried to attack a bird right in front of me, just like literally crossed my path. So hawks are messages and messengers, and so, there's a message of something about to cross your path. Now, unfortunately, hawks crossing your path are not always the best sign, so I'm a little nervous that I'm sitting here doing this intuitive patterns for the month of August and throwing in some of the astrology, and all of a sudden, I have a hawk trying to attack a bird, which failed, by the way. But it makes me wonder if there is some sort of aggression, some sort of attack that might happen. Now, again, notice it didn't succeed in front of me, which is interesting. But, what could create an alarm? What could create some sort of a stressor or change, which is exactly what this eclipse on the 11th is going to do, because it's in Leo. And when you have solar eclipses in Leo, it oftentimes is a threat to people in authority. It oftentimes brings something into the light that around people who have power, and it illuminates things that you maybe don't want to illuminate. Just saying. So I would keep my eyes and ears peeled on those particular levels. So not only are we in an eclipse cycle, but we're also actually dealing with the fact that we've got 6 and 7 planets going retrograde in the month of August. So it's sort of like everything is going retrograde. So when a planet is going forward, say Mercury, the communication focus is outward. When Mercury goes retrograde, like it is at the moment, the communication goes inward. So you might notice that you're having a lot of communications with yourself. You're asking a lot of questions like, where am I going? What do I want? What's really important? Is my home really important? Do I feel safe in my home? Is this where I want to be? Do I want my freedom more? Do I want to rebel against it with all the Aquarius energy? Is my power being expressed? Is it being expressed appropriately? Is it being acknowledged appropriately? Maybe what do I need to change in related to my power to help it move? Maybe I'm not seeing something that the eclipse is going to illuminate. So we're also dealing with a Mars retrograde, and Mars right now as we speak is backing up out of Aquarius and it's backing up into Capricorn. Makes it a little more serious, makes it a little more somber. Not that Mars likes being in Aquarius, which it's been since like March, and it will shift November like 7th, 8th, somewhere right in there. So Mars is a planet of energy, gumption, and drive. And so when Mars is retrograde, which it is, you don't have any energy, any gumption, or any drive. So you feel like you just don't have oomph. And I've definitely noticed that for myself. And I am a Leo, so all of this stuff is affecting Leos really strongly because it's happening during the time of Leo. And with Mars in opposition, because it's in Aquarius, it kind of hits certain things related to my solar 7th house. Okay, so you really start to kind of go, gosh, I'm trying to move forward, but I'm not moving forward, and I'm trying to get things going, but I can't seem to get things going. And so Aquarius is a little bit of a lackadaisical sign. So Aquarius is sort of like, I always like to think of it as a surfer dude that says, oh yeah, no, we're going to surf now. The waves are up, we'll do it tomorrow, right? So it has a little bit of a procrastination energy. So Mars is sitting there going, come on, let's do this. And, and Aquarius is like, we can do that later. So my joke for myself is that, August is a month because of all of these things going retrograde, Mercury going retrograde, everything going retrograde. It's a really good time to kind of just take a break and relax and deal with home because of the eclipse that was in Cancer. Deal with things that are right in front of you, and look at, really inwardly look. So some people are saying, gosh, this Mercury retrograde is just kicking my ass. And my comment is, well, we also have Uranus retrograde at the same time. And Uranus retrograde in Taurus is kind of acting like an additional Mercury retrograde. So it kind of like magnifies the Mercury retrograde, which is never fun. So it just adds to kind of a double whammy. Now, I just want to say here that if you were born under a Mercury retrograde, all of the retrograde propaganda, shall we say, doesn't really work for you. Because if you were born in a Mercury retrograde, you're fine in a Mercury retrograde. You won't know what the hell's wrong with everybody else. Why are they so stressed out? It's a Mercury retrograde, big whoopee, kind of thing. So, but for the rest of us that are not born in a Mercury retrograde, it will feel a little bit more intense. My comment is that, August is sort of a tough month. It's putting a lot of pressure on people on a lot of levels. It's kind of like pressure building inside a container, that you could think of it like a champagne bottle that's being shook and warmed at the same time. And so there's this pressure building on the inside. And that pressure is going to get released. My concern about that is that all the planets really start going retrograde fully in November. And November, there's like 6 planets either change direction or change signs all at the same time in November. And we have an election there, we have a midterm election. And so the volatility of that is a little high. So I want everybody to stay really calm, cool, and collected, depending on which way it goes, because, these things could go anyway under this particular astrology, because, you have to kind of expect the unexpected. So I think that's also the concern maybe about what's going on at this particular time in August. I hear a lot of people say they're really quite concerned. They're really afraid. They're really nervous. They feel like something is getting ready to happen. And, I'd have to agree with them. The problem is with Uranus and Taurus, we don't really know what that's going to be exactly. And what we do know is that it will be related to financial institutions. It'll be related to banking and stock markets. It'll be related to real estate. So, but Uranus is going to be doing this in Taurus for the next 7 years. And so it's sort of like, it'll unfold as it unfolds. And with Uranus, it'll always hit you when you're not expecting it to hit you. So my suggestion is that everybody pay really close attention and stay alert to the shifting changes and tides of energy that are actually happening. So the other thing I want to just say is that, it feels like all the planets are over in winter. And so, I feel like, I've said this before, like we're in the Game of Thrones, that winter is coming, winter is coming, winter has come, right? So Neptune is in Pisces at high tide, which is its most emotional, its most volatile, its most intense, until September. And so Neptune at high tide in Pisces is winter. Pisces is winter. Mars, of course, in Capricorn and Aquarius is in winter. And then Saturn and Pluto in Capricorn are in winter. And so we get this heaviness that's kind of going into the winter. So things feel stuck, not moving the way you really want them to move, locked down, and there's this sense of hopelessness that happens with this. Now, I don't want anybody to be hopeless, because I think that is a collapsing position. And I actually don't want you to be hopeful either, because I think hopeful is oftentimes based on illusions and it's not based on reality. And I think that you can have hope, but I think you also have to stay very strongly in what's right in front of you, like what's directly in front of you, and not be in some sort of illusionary, hopeful fantasy that it's all going to be fine, because a lot of metaphysical people, go from this pattern of like, oh, we just have to stay really positive and it all has to be fine. And I'm like, no, there are times that you have to get very real. And with Saturn and Pluto and Capricorn, it's about getting real and getting grounded and telling yourself the truth about some things that you maybe haven't wanted to tell yourself the truth about, which I think is also tricky and difficult. So, I think you will start to feel some shifts after the 10th of September. And obviously when we get to September, we'll get there. But since I'm a little late, I'm throwing in September. And we're going to have a lot of movement November, December. Into January. So, well, I'll say more than we've had. I'll say it like that, more than we've had. So, again, stay really practical, stay really grounded, pay off your credit cards, do your best to get rid of debt as fast as you can. So really just move all of this stuff through and get really simplified and stay really alert to which way the tide is going to turn, because it might start as fast as this eclipse that's happening in 2 days. And you might see the shift happening right there. Okay, so now that was the astrological overview update. I'm sure there's more to it, but that's off the top of my head right now. And there's so much more because we have so many planets retrograde, and I can go into all of that, but I will do that on a separate video. On this video, I also wanted to put my intuitive patterns for the month of August 2018. And the intuitive patterns are based on cards. And so I basically look at the astrology, but I also look at the cards. And as a psychic, I like to kind of triangulate. I like to oh, what does the astrology say? Oh, what does the numerology say? Oh, what do the cards say? And if they all kind of point in a similar direction, then we want to pay attention to that. And that's one of the reasons people say, say I'm really accurate as a psychic is because I'm actually not depending on one tool or one system, but I'm actually trying to be a synthesizer of many tools and many information. So when I do the intuitive patterns for the month, I actually use a lot of different cards, as well as the astrology, as well as the numerology. So we are in the dog days of summer, and we have fires absolutely everywhere here in Northern California. And I am safe and sound, just so everybody knows, because I've had some beautiful emails and notes and messages from people wondering if I'm okay. I super appreciate that. And I, so appreciate the offers for if I needed a place to be, and that was even sweeter again still. So, but at the moment, I am in a safe place other than being in the smoke zone. So the world is heating up and global warming is real, and we all need to look at the choices and the decisions that we make. And the dog days of summer really brings that to a heightened viewpoint as to what are the priorities and what do you really need and what do you really not need. And August is sort of an intense moment that is going to force everybody to make great change and make that change happen. Now, that's a good thing on many levels, but these energies have been building up for a while, and many are noticing that this type of pressure that people are feeling internally is really palpable. And this is, again, what we need to manifest huge changes. It's like there's so much resistance. I kind of think of it like this, that the angels are looking down on us and going, miserable enough yet? Miserable enough yet? Nope, she's not miserable enough yet. So maybe you should, hit it a little bit harder. And so the universe is clearly trying to get humanity to pay attention to something. And it is loud about it at this point because we're clearly not listening. And when the world is in so much resistance, it takes more pressure than the resistance to pop the cork of that stagnation that has been blocking the appropriate flow of energy in our world. And this is unfortunately been building to a point that the type of force that's going to happen here is to break down these doors and to bring a new way and a very different approach to your world. Unfortunately, can be more aggressive and a little bit more dangerous than maybe we had thought. So, my joke is that Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall, Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the great king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty Dumpty back together again. So the walls are going to come tumbling down. Our old identity is going to come tumbling down. It's going to break in some way, shape, and form, and we will change. And we will have to find a different way to do things, and we're going to have to find the spiritual and sacred joy that comes with the freedom that your soul feels when it is able to unwind the patterns that have been restricting and limiting you. So that statement is an important statement because it's not just global, it's actually very personal. And again, I believe the global is because of where we are internally on a personal level. So when we resist something, the external will reflect to us our disowned shadow, which seems to be huge at the moment. And then we have to deal with that externally, which then helps us deal with it on the internal level. When I did the cards this month, because I deal with all these different decks, I was kind of surprised by the cards because I have 6 breakthrough or breakdown cards, 3 healing cards, and 1 magic card. So 1 card that makes the desires of the innocents finally be heard, and 2, expressing sacred joy. So that's a lot. I mean, as a person who does cards all day, it's like, whoa. So there is a type of destructive resistance that is needing to be broken down globally at this time. And as many as you know, I always look at the internal manifestations rather than focus on the external projections of those manifestations. And that is because our internal dynamics are what are fueling this external dysfunction. So if you become awake and aware of your own internal patterns, then how you cope with the external shifts will also be different and not mimicking your old patterns and habits. So for sure, old habits are shattered and broken, and probably people feel like they've been shattered for a while. You are walking on broken glass, but there is power in the sacrifices that you offer up at this time by your willingness to feel through the pain that is on this planet and open your compassionate heart and empathy to this world's treasure. And this world's treasure is love. Okay? I know it doesn't feel like it at the moment, but that is the treasure of this world. And this world, we're here to learn about unconditional love, which means love without conditions, without color of skin, without race, without religion, without any of this, is what we're trying to learn. And if you are not going there, or you're not attempting to go there, you are basically falling back into the old patterns of humanity that have caused suffering and misery and war and conflict. And so you again are either part of the solution or you are part of the problem. So all in all, I would say regardless of what manifests, the overall outcome is intended this month to be a positive shift in a new direction. But the astrology is so huge and big that it's going to trigger things that are less than pleasant to do it. But I tell you and ask you and beg you and hope that you will choose to remain optimistic in this new flow as we are all co-creating together. So under this triple eclipse cycle, you're going to feel changes in your home, your safety, your relationships. The flaws in your relationships become more obvious. You recognize that you have to keep the larger goals of your community, group, or unit at the forefront of your mind, and that you have to look at the power structures that are either egocentric or blocking the expression of your true potential. So August is asking you to discover the depth of your love, and many of your priorities are going to feel completely rearranged. I would say this is a great month to spend time and to play with your family, to get out in nature, to go camping and hiking and do the things that families love to do, like family gatherings, reunions, all those types of things. So certain things are going to be really clearly important, and your family is at the top of that priority list. So without the blame in family, there really cannot be a great balance in your external world. Our family is the ground. It is the foundation. It is the basis for how our energy moves through our lower chakras. Those chakras represent our first experiences of safety and grounding. And so take the time to really cultivate those special energies of love that bind hearts and souls together. Those connections are our stability in trying times. They are the connections that bring us to this world and will take us home again. Those connections are what makes life worth living. Even if you had difficulty in your family childhood patterns, you can become the family that you always wanted for your own children. So this is the moment to make memories for yourself and your loved ones. Know that there is a lot going on in the world, and I am sure this month is going to continue to stir up many complex emotions. That is why you want to hold tight to those you love and to the things that really matter. So I hope you enjoy the month of August. I hope you get to kind of slow down and breathe a little bit and get back to your own center. Take care.